The morning sun hung heavy and golden over the manicured grass of the riverside baseball fields, casting long shadows that danced with the promise of a classic American weekend. For Kelvin Green, a man whose kind eyes were framed by the gentle lines of 62 years of wisdom, this was where he felt most at home. For 15 years, Kelvin had dedicated his weekends to the diamond, not for the modest supplemental income of $56 or $61 a game, but for the pure, unadulterated love of the sport. He was a veteran umpire, a guardian of the rules, and a mentor to the young athletes who saw the field as a place of dreams. On this particular Sunday in October, the air was thick with the scent of popcorn and the distant, rhythmic thud of balls meeting leather gloves. It was Elimination Day, a high-stakes atmosphere where the pressure often ran as hot as the afternoon sun. In the opposing dugout stood Francisco Borges, a 38-year-old coach who managed a team known as the Bruins. Francisco was a man of intensity, leading a group of teenagers aged 13 to 17 through the rigors of competitive youth baseball. However, beneath the surface of the game, a quiet storm was brewing. On that 16th day of October, the Bruins had taken the field with a roster that carried a hidden complication. 2 players on the team were 17 years old, but their eligibility was in question according to the specific sanctioning rules of the tournament. While Francisco believed he had interpreted the grade level stipulations correctly, the atmosphere in the stands was already beginning to ripple with chatter and growing unrest. The game had barely reached the bottom of the first inning when the whispers turned into a focused energy of discontent. Mothers, fathers, and grandparents, many of whom followed these teams with the dedication of professional scouts, began to notice familiar faces. Among the spectators was a coach from the opposing team who recognized one of the catchers. This player had previously played for his own organization, and the coach knew for a fact that the young man exceeded the age limit for this specific division. In a move of calculated strategy, the opposing team waited until the first pitch was thrown. They knew the rules of the game intimately. If they had spoken up before the start, the illegal players would simply have been removed. But by waiting until the game was officially underway, they ensured a mandatory forfeit for the Bruins. As the realization of the forfeit swept through the facility, the tournament director stepped onto the field and signaled for the play to stop. Kelvin Green stood at home plate, the epicenter of the unfolding drama, as the director delivered the news that would end the Bruins' journey that Sunday. The strategic loss was a bitter pill for Francisco and his supporters to swallow. The game was over before it had truly begun, and the elimination was final. In the heat of the moment, the frustration moved from the grassy field to the small area known as the director's table, a simple setup of 6-foot folding tables where the administrative heart of the tournament beat. Kelvin Green had retreated to this area to collect his scorecard and prepare for his next assignment. He was joined by his son, Cameron Green, a young man who followed in his father's footsteps as an umpire. They were simply bystanders to the growing argument between Francisco, a group of 5 or 6 aggressive parents, and the tournament officials. The tension was no longer about the $895 tournament fee, which had already been settled. Instead, the conflict centered on a much smaller sum, a mere $8 per person that the parents had paid for stadium entry. They felt entitled to a refund since the game had been cut short, and their voices rose in a chorus of indignation. The male tournament director, seated behind the barricaded tables, attempted to hold his ground. He spoke a truth that acted as a spark to a powder keg, reminding the group that the situation had arisen because they had tried to circumvent the rules. When the word cheating was uttered, the air turned electric with hostility. Francisco Borges, feeling the weight of the disqualification and the eyes of his players upon him, lost his sense of calm. He began to move around the tables with an angry gait. His focus narrowed on the director who had challenged his integrity. Seeing the situation escalate, Kelvin Green stepped forward. His intention was simple and rooted in his years of experience as a leader on the field. He wanted to de-escalate the tension. He spoke with a steady voice, urging the coach to relax and reminding him that the children were watching. He asked Francisco why he would act in such a manner in front of the youth they were meant to inspire. But Francisco was beyond the reach of gentle words. He saw Kelvin not as a mediator, but as an obstacle. With a sudden movement, Francisco grabbed Kelvin by his heavy chest protector, the dark fabric bunching under his grip. He lifted the 62-year-old man, his fist poised in a threatening gesture. Cameron Green, seeing his father in immediate physical danger, acted on instinct to protect his family. He stepped in and delivered a punch to the defendant, hoping to break the hold on his father. The scene quickly devolved into a chaotic scuffle. As Kelvin was shoved back, losing his hearing aids and glasses in the process, the parents from the Bruins team surged forward. Cameron found himself outnumbered, jumped by 5 individuals in a flurry of movement. It took the intervention of a bystanding coach to finally separate the groups and pull Cameron from the ground. In the aftermath of the physical altercation, the quiet dignity of the courtroom of Judge Judy provided a space for reflection and justice. The honorable judge listened as Kelvin Green, with his quiet strength, described the pain he felt the following morning and the month of work he had lost due to his injuries. She heard from Francisco, who admitted to put his hands on the umpire but denied throwing a punch, claiming he only intended to move Kelvin out of the way to continue his argument with the director. The judge leaned forward, her voice carrying the weight of authority and a deep sense of moral clarity. She addressed the 38-year-old coach, highlighting the disparity in age and the sheer disrespect shown to a man old enough to be his father. She spoke of the sanctity of youth sports, a place that should be defined by character building and the love of the game rather than violence and entitlement. She reminded everyone in the room that umpires and directors are human beings who make mistakes, but they are out there because they care about the children and the community. The judgment was clear and decisive. Francisco Borges was held responsible for the consequences of his actions. The court awarded Kelvin Green $10,000, a sum representing the lost wages and the damages for the assault. But more importantly, the ruling served as a profound message to all parents and coaches who attend youth sporting events. The message was one of accountability. If you choose to behave badly, if you lose your cool in a place meant for play and growth, there will be consequences. As the court adjourned, Kelvin Green stood tall, his integrity intact. He had not sought the conflict, but he had stood his ground for the sake of the rules he had spent 15 years defending. The story of that Sunday in October became more than just a legal case. It became a testament to the idea that baseball, America's pastime, must remain a sanctuary of fair play and positive energy. It was a reminder that while a game can be forfeited and money can be lost, one's character and the example set for the next generation are the only things that truly matter when the final inning is over. The sun continued to shine on the fields of Riverside, waiting for the next game, the next pitch, and a future where the only thing that hits the dirt is a sliding runner chasing a dream.